Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and today I'm bringing you guys Week 1 tight end start or sit decisions. Now, if you want to learn about running backs, wide receivers, or quarterbacks, those are all already out on my channel. You guys can check those out after this video. At any point inside of this video, if you enjoy you having a fun time, maybe you just like what I'm talking about, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below because it's free. I put out content every single day to help you guys win that 2020 Fantasy Football Championship. So without further ado, let's get into the Week 1 tight end start or sits. I hope you guys are excited. We're only a couple hours away as you guys are watching this from kickoff to start the NFL season. I know a lot of people didn't believe the season was going to start, but it's here, and we are at least going to see one game, which is the kickoff of the NFL season today. So, Texans at Chiefs obviously is that game. Right here, we are kind of dealing with the situation of we got one tight end who's amazing in Travis Kelce versus two guys who we don't even know how involved they will be in this game. Travis Kelce obviously was an early round pick in all fantasy football drafts. He's a vital piece to this Chiefs offense, and I personally believe that this game is going to be pretty high scoring. I think we see a nice back and forth affair here between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans, so I think Travis Kelce will be very involved in this game and play very well, so I'm going to go ahead and label him as a start. Even if I didn't believe this was a great game for Travis Kelce, it's pretty much impossible to bench the guy you drafted so early at tight end, especially since he's as talented as Travis Kelce. For the Houston Texans, either of these guys could score a touchdown in this week, but I don't feel confident enough going with either of these guys in the lineup. Last season, we saw some weeks it's Fells, some weeks it's Atkins, and you really have no idea which one to go with, so I'm just going to go ahead and sit both Jordan Atkins as well as Darren Fells inside of the inaugural matchup of the season. Next game here, we got the Sunday slate with the Dolphins at the New England Patriots. Now, Mike Gesicki is a guy that a lot of fantasy analysts were talking up all offseason long. Now, I'm a Dolphins fan, so I kind of like Mike Gesicki, but in this matchup up against the New England Deflatriots, I'm just not going to chance it. Week 1, maybe it takes a couple of weeks for him to get it going, but note this, if Devontae Parker and Preston Williams were to miss the game, maybe Gesicki misses as well. They're all on the injury report. I personally expect all three of those players to play, so I'm not really too worried about it, but if Williams or if Parker was to be down and out for the count in this game, I think Mike Gesicki would be a lock to go into your lineup. In that case, the Patriots have a bunch of tight ends. There's none that have clearly made their spot as the number one guy yet, so I'm going to go ahead and sit those guys down as well. Next game to talk about here, we got the Seattle Seahawks at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, if you guys have been here for a decent amount of time, you guys know in the offseason that I love Hayden Hurst of the Atlanta Falcons. I personally believe this season he will be a top 5 tight end. I think that with the amount that the Falcons throw the ball and with the amount that the Falcons look to throw the ball to the tight end position, that this is a match made in heaven for Hayden Hurst after they shipped out Austin Hoop God to the Cleveland Browns. So I'm going to go ahead and start Hayden Hurst in this game. I think this is going to be a decently high-scoring matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the Seattle Seahawks. So I'm going to buy into Hayden Hurst Week 1. I talked him up all offseason, and I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and play him Week 1 going up against the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to be sitting third leg Greg Olsen up against the Falcons. I just don't know how involved Greg will be with Will Dissly. I just don't know what that split's going to be. So for now, I'm going to go ahead and sit third leg Greg down, even though I'd assume really no one ended up drafting Greg Olsen onto their fantasy roster. Next game here, we got the Packers at the Minnesota Vikings. Now, both of these teams are kind of confusing when it comes to the tight end position. There has been talks of Jay Sternberger maybe not even being the starting tight end of the Green Bay Packers, so obviously that's worrisome. This is a game that I already believe is going to be a very run-heavy kind of attack from both fronts of Aaron Jones and Dalvin Cook, so I'm personally not trying to start really the quarterback in this game. I do like Adams, I do like Thielen, but besides that, I think this is going to be a very run-heavy attack, so even if I was confident that Jay Sternberger was the guy, I'd probably sit him as well. For the Minnesota Vikings, we have the case of here, how involved will Irv Smith be? This has got to be the year Irv Smith doesn't. Kyle Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, always manages to fuck up his day. He did it all last season, so I think we got to wait it out a little bit, see how involved each guy is, see how the splits work up against the Green Bay Packers. So I'm going to go ahead and sit both Irv Smith and Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, Kyle Rudolph, in this game. Next matchup, same division, we got the Bears at the Detroit Lions, and this is a game where I actually would not hate starting TJ Hawkinson, but I'd probably just sit him down in this matchup. The reports all offseason long are TJ Hawkinson doesn't feel 100%. Doesn't feel like, he said it himself, he doesn't feel like he's 100%. And then in camp, they're showing clips of TJ Hawkinson reaching back like Odell Beckham or Mawson, the guy, just destroying the defenders. Now, this could be a case of they're destroying the defenders because he's playing up against the Lions defense. Don't have a great defense. Obviously, they lost Darius Slay in the offseason to the Philadelphia Eagles, so that defense is not very strong. So do you really expect TJ Hawkinson to get stopped by them? Probably not. The Bears do have a much better defense, play much better against the tight end, so I'd probably sit him down in this matchup. There's definitely scenarios where I would start TJ Hawkinson, especially if he's your only tight end. Some leagues, some people only draft one tight end like myself. You just fire him out there and hope for the best for Jimmy Graham. Man, I don't know what to do with Jimmy Graham. He was amazing a bunch of years ago in New Orleans. Then he goes to the Packers, doesn't play that well. Now he's a Chicago Bear. He just loved that division, apparently, with the Bears and the Green Bay Packers. So I'm just not going to start him. I want to see how involved he is, and I feel like there's just too many cooks in the kitchen there for Jimmy Graham to have an excellent game. Sure, he could be worthy of a start if he scores a touchdown, but he's going to be a touchdown-dependent player, and I'm not trying to start that in my lineup week one. Next game here, we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Carolina Panthers. This is another case of don't overthink it. You drafted Darren Waller inside of the first couple of rounds of your draft, maybe 5th, 6th round. He's going against the Panthers, a not-so-good defense. You start him. In the other case, we have the Carolina Panthers with Ian Thomas, a guy that I personally believe could have an excellent breakout season in 2020, but you have to wait to see it first with this player, in my opinion. He's not like a Mark Andrews last year where I felt so confident in him. I was ready to throw him into the lineup week one against the Miami Dolphins. He played quite well. But in Ian Thomas's case, I would wait a couple of games to see how it really works before you start him. In most situations, Thomas was kind of that guy that you drafted to be your second tight end as an upside pick, which I like. But for now, we are going ahead and sit Ian Thomas down on our bench. Next matchup up here is another in-division game. We got the Philadelphia Eagles at the Washington football team. And again, a no-brainer here. You draft Zach Ertz early. You start him up against the Washington football team defense. While they have a great front seven, the rest of the defense is not so bueno. Now, the situation in Philadelphia seems like Rager may miss this game. It's going to be the Sean Jackson show as well as the two tight ends. So I'm happily starting up Dallas Goedert in this game. Goedert's going to be a guy while he's the tight end too on the Eagles. He is not going to scare me at all. Not scared at all to start him. I could see a top 10 game out of both of these guys this week, so I really think both tight ends are going to be involved, so I'm going to go ahead and start both of them up against the Washington football team. Now, Washington, they don't even really have a starting tight end. They don't have a guy of name relevance to talk about here. They have a carousel of tight ends where one of the guys is going to end up playing okay in this game, the rest, not so bueno, or maybe they all just play like shit. So I'm not going to go ahead and start any of those Washington football team tight ends. Next game here, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I make the joke all the time about how Phillip Rivers loves that tight end. He just loves that juicy tight end. In the past, he has thrown the ball to Antonio Gates. He's thrown it to Hunter Henry. He averages a top 7.5 tight end fantasy football finish over his NFL career. Jack Doyle last year was kind of ruined by the fact that Eric Ebron was there. So, Jack Doyle now alone up against a bad defense with a unsure about T.Y. Hilton who's been injury prone in the past. They don't really have a guaranteed wide receiver too. They have a bunch of guys there that could be the guy. But what I know for sure is that Phillip Rivers has those lasered on fucking goggles to search for the tight end. That's why he has 11 kids, because he's got these special glasses to find his wife as well as find the tight end on the roster that he plays for, and in this case, it's Jack Doyle, so I'm firing him up in this game. Now, there's a Jaguars tight end that I actually like, Tyler Eifert. If you guys remember a couple of years ago when he was on the Bengals, this guy's a top 5 tight end, and he played pretty well last season as well, ends up getting hurt. Now, he has been reborn into fantasy football, and I would not be surprised if Tyler Eifert was a super-duper hot fantasy football pickup next week, considering the Colts are going to score a bunch of points on them, probably by running the ball, and then Gardner's going to have to throw the ball fucking a zillion times late in the game, and could potentially throw the ball to Tyler Eifert a couple of times, skyrocketing his value in fantasy football. So don't be surprised if Tyler Eifert is one of those guys that you see randomly in a DraftKings or FanDuel lineup that wins the whole fucking shebang for that guy, because I think that Tyler Eifert is going to put up a solid game, but he's obviously not relevant enough to even start And I wouldn't even feel super confident in it. I just think that there is potential for him to put up a big game this week up against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, on to a snooze fest. The Jets at the Buffalo Bills. I'm sitting both tight ends. Now, Chris Herndon is a guy that I like to personally break out this season. Last year, I thought it was going to happen, but he ends up getting hurt. He doesn't play too many games. The season before, he was playing very well. Now, this is his chance to get it done with Sammy Mono. It seems like all the other wide receivers are hurt. They're legitimately all questionable. Herndon, Perriman. Who else? Herndon? No, not Herndon. Herndon's going to play. Perriman. They've got Denzel Mims. They've got Crowder. They have so many fucking guys on this team, and they're all questionable. Maybe if none of them play, it's Herndon season, but I still wouldn't do that because this is a very tough matchup against the Buffalo Bills, so I'm going to go ahead and sit Chris Herndon this week and then likely fire him up next week. Dawson Knox one time if you're with me. Also a guy that I think has a lot of upside for the years to come for the Buffalo Bills. Showed some promise last season, but I don't necessarily want to play him week one. We really want to see how involved he is. Now with Stephon Diggs obviously there in Buffalo. Next game, we got the Cleveland Browns at the Baltimore Ravens, and again, this is a clear case of you drafted him early, you start him. Mark Andrews, excellent matchup up against the Cleveland Browns. Probably going to skull fuck him, probably going to have a great game, could be the number one tight end on the week, so you play him up against the Browns, and I'm sitting down Austin Hooper. I talked him down all offseason. I don't like Austin Hooper because Austin Hooper is a great tight end, but why he was so good last season was because of the situation, like his name was Mike from the Jersey Shore, okay? It's because the Atlanta Falcons offense and Dirk Cutter love to throw the ball to the fucking tight end. In Cleveland, we don't really see that as much, so I don't think Austin Hooper plays quite well in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if Austin Hooper finishes as like a top 15 tight end, but I don't see enough upside this week up against the Baltimore Ravens and a pretty tough defense to want to start him week numero 1. Now on to the later slate of games. Cardinals at 49ers. If you guys have enjoyed this video thus far, you made it this far, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. Back into it, Cardinals at 49ers again. A case of don't overthink it. Him, Kelsey, Kittle, Kelsey, and Andrews are the guys that could be the number one tight end on the week. The Cardinals defense cannot stop a tight end worth shit. Last year, you could have literally played a scrub from the Arizona team. I don't even have the tight end listed. He could go up against the Cardinals defense and fuck them in the ass repeatedly. So I think that George Kittle is going to be an excellent start this week. Probably my best guess to be the number one guy at the tight end position. I'm going to be sitting down the Arizona tight ends because, again, no names that are really relevant there. Not really one true tight end. Number one there in Arizona. Next game here, we got the Bolts at the Bengals. Here we got a great matchup for Hunter Henry. The Bengals defense not all that good. Now, obviously, the tight end lover, Phillip Rivers, no longer there. It's Tyrod Taylor going to be the starting quarterback of this game. I assume Hunter Henry gets involved early and often in this game due to the fact that besides Keenan Allen, they don't really have a clear wide receiver too. Obviously, Mike Williams is that guy, but he's likely going to miss the whole month of September. So I think this is going to be a nice month for Hunter Henry to eat. I don't necessarily love Hunter Henry for season long, for the whole season, because he's just been a guy that misses a couple of games every year. But when the guy's healthy, he's a beast. So I'm going to go ahead and say Hunter Henry's definitely a locked and loaded start for the week. I'm going to be sitting down CJ Uzomah to sit down here against the Chargers. The Chargers have an excellent defense. Uzomah may be a guy that Joe Burrow learns to love in the offense and could be involved once AJ Green ends up getting hurt like he always does. Knock on wood, obviously. I hope he doesn't get hurt, but it's just an assessment that he normally does. So I'm going to go ahead and sit him down. We're going to see how him and Burrow connect in this first game, but I wouldn't buy too much into it if he plays like shit, thinking he's going to be garbage, because the Chargers defense is a very formidable opponent. Next game here, we got the game of the week, the Buccaneers at the Saints. And speaking of game of the week, listen real quick to an ad from my friends and my sponsor over at OverlayDFS.com. OverlayDFS.com has introduced a new game for fantasy football players that I love. This is my favorite way to play DFS, and this new game has completely suckered me in. Now, you guys understand, or you might not understand, gambling. How gambling works is there's normally a spread picks, and there's going to be teams +4, -4, say. If you get +4, you get +4 points to the team. And if you have -4, you get -4 to the team. In this scenario, we are going to be talking about fantasy football points. In the first Thursday night matchup, we have Deshaun Watson versus Patrick Mahomes. Would you rather take Deshaun Watson getting 4 fantasy points or Pat Mahomes losing 4 fantasy points? Whoever scores more points at the end of that, plus or minus the points, is going to be the winner. All you have to do is click on whoever thinks going to be better, put in the value, and then you get with the odds here, and you win the certain amount of money that you put in there. So make sure you guys check out overlaydfs.com. I'd really appreciate it. It's going to be a fun time, and I will see you guys back in the video. And we are back. Make sure to check out overlaydfs.com. Link down below in the description. Back to the video. Bucks at Saints. This is simple. Here, you're playing Gronk. You drafted him, hopefully late. Hopefully you didn't draft him inside the top 6 rounds, because I don't think he will return value on that. But you got him. You're fucking playing him up against the Saints. This is going to be a high-scoring matchup. This is going to be a very fun game to watch with Mike Evans potentially missing the game. Got to worry about that on Sunday. Check the injury report. It seems like he's hurt. Seems like he may miss this game. And in that case, I'm firing Gronk at all cylinders. I think this is a great matchup for Mr. Gronkowski. And I think we might see him, Gronk, spike it at least once in the end zone this week, especially if Evans is gone. And now we got Jared Cook of the Saints. Now, this guy is the most unsexy pick every single week. Gonna finish as a top 12 tight end. You need to hope he scores a touchdown here. Otherwise, he probably won't be that great, but he won't be shit. He won't screw your team over, so he's a start. For sits, O.J. Howard, Cameron Brate, until Gronk gets hurt, don't think either of those guys are going to be very relevant to rely on. Obviously, Howard or Brate could score a touchdown this week. I would not be surprised, but I wouldn't necessarily start them unless Gronk was to go down. Next game here, we move on to the Sunday night special. Cowboys at the LA Rams. Now, this is a good matchup for Tyler Higbee. The Dallas Cowboys defense, not all that great. They ended up losing a big piece last season to the Miami Dolphins in Byron Jones. The defense is okay, but Tyler Higbee was on a fucking tear at the end of last season, and we're going to hope that he rides that tear. He rides the heater like he is a gambler, and he is going to hopefully tear it up this game up against the Cowboys. I'm going to go ahead and fire Tyler Higbee up. Nothing really too scary from the Cowboys, and I'm sitting Blake Jarwin. I got to do it. I'm not playing him week 1. He could play amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if he finishes a top 10 tight end, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he was complete shit, because there's so many guys on this team that are going to be involved in this game. Cooper, even playing up against Jalen Ramsey, going to get targeted. Then you got Mr. CD fucking Lamb. And then you got Michael Gallup. And you got Zeke. And now you got Blake Jarwin, the 5-headed monster. You are going to be so confused every week what to do with Blake Jarwin. I want to see how he plays with Dak before I go ahead and buy all in on the Blake Jarwin train. Choo-choo of him being amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and sit him down this week, but would not be surprised if you had to start him. Let me know down below in the comments if you guys are starting Mr. Blake Jarwin week 1. Now on to the double Monday night header. The Steelers at the New York Football Giants. You drafted Evan Ingram early here. You're starting him. Very simple. Now, this is going to be something that I may end up regretting. I'm sitting Eric Ebron. I don't know how the targets are going to look aside from Juju. I know Juju's going to be involved. I know there's going to be one wide receiver involved, at least looking very good, whether that's Deontay Johnson or James Washington. And Eric Ebron may be very involved. I don't know yet. This defense is very soft against the Giants. This is another guy, probably cheap on some of those websites. But you should play at Overlay because it's much more fun and it's a lot fucking easier. So I'm going to go ahead and take Eric Ebron as a sit, but I would not be surprised if he skull-fucked the Giants defense. And finally, the final game of Monday night and the final game of the Week 1 NFL season, the Titans at the Broncos. I'm firing both these guys up. Noah Fant against the Titans. Don't necessarily love the matchup. Very tough defense, but I think Locke is going to love that nice safety valve in his main man, Noah Fant. For Jonnu Smith, was very involved last season in the playoffs. I expect a breakout season from the guy with the widest fucking neck in the NFL. He is a swole-ass neck. I don't know if you guys have seen a picture of him. Look it up. The guy has a big neck, but he's also going to score some big points this week. Maybe not his best week of the season, but I think he's definitely a solid start week 1 up against the Denver Broncos, especially since Mr. Vonnie Von Miller is going to be missing time, sadly. So thank you guys all for watching this video. If you guys did end up enjoying, please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. I love each and every single one of you guys. Make sure to check out overlightdfs.com. Link in the description. I love you all, and I'll see you motherfuckers later with a live stream. Good boy.